Righto, hello guys. This is my tutorial on how to solve a 4x4 Rubik's Cube. Now, I'm going to assume you already know how to solve a 3x3, which I have right here. So, I'm not going to go through the basic things I would need to for someone starting off of a 4x4. Although it is helpful to, what's the word I'm looking for? Relearn some basic things or strengthen some basic principles. And one of those principles would be the color scheme. To solve this cube, we're going to be starting off the white side. So we need to know the opposite of the white side, and in fact the opposite of all colors. So opposite of white is yellow, opposite of green is blue, and opposite of red is orange. Now, another thing you should know is, well, take a look at this core. As you can see, it looks like a sphere, and in fact it is a sphere, as compared to a 3x3, which is in a basic three-dimensional plus. Okay, now another thing you should know, excuse me, about 4x4s is the edges. Now, the edges, as you can see, are obviously different from that of a 3x3. Let me turn it the same way for continuity. There we go. So as you can see, the 4x4 has two edges here, whereas the 3x3 has one edge. So when we're going to solve the 4x4 here, we're going to be, before we solve anything, we're first going to work on the centers by making all of these squares, and we're going to ignore all the corners and outer pieces. So once we get all the centers solved into this 4x4 grid of center pieces, you can think of those four blocks or squares as equating to this one square. So everything will rotate around these. We're not going to do much. Actually, we are going to do a lot of cutting the squares, but we will always be returning the centers to their correct position, as if nothing had ever happened, except for pairing up the edges. And speaking of pairing up the edges, once we pair up the edges, see, we could have two edges, ignore the rest of the cube, we could have two edges like this, here. Then once we paired it up, it would look like this and that. So once that happens, we can think of these two edges as the one edge on a 3x3, and then we can solve the 4x4 cube as if it was a 3x3 cube until we get to some parities, which happen about, I'd say 75% of the time. So in terms of the sides and notation, I'm assuming that you already know how to solve a 3x3. If you don't, please watch my video on how to do so. I will put a link in the description. The notation for a 4x4 is rather similar to that of a 3x3, except for some minor differences. I noticed that a lot of people like to use prime or an apostrophe to tell you to turn a face counterclockwise. But I learned off the original Rubik's instructions, and in those directions, instead of using the prime or apostrophe, it used an I, which stood for inverse. And I think that makes a little bit more sense. Finally, getting on to the 4x4 notation. We're going to assume this is front face, right face, left face, top, down, and back. Back, here we go. Okay, so this would be our this would be, well, okay, sorry, bad phrasing. This would be R designated by a capital R. This would be R designated by a lowercase r. This would be U designated by a capital U, lowercase u, capital L, lowercase l, and I think, let's see. And the same goes for the I. This would be RI with a capital R, and I is always lowercase. And then this would be little r I, capital U I, lowercase u I, and yeah, so I think let's get solving this. Okay, now to solve the centers. Solving the centers is rather intuitive, and intuitive means that it's rather easy to figure out if you know the basic principles. And so you're going to want to start by picking any face works to find your first center. As you may notice, the 3x3 has a fixed center. Sorry for bumping the camera there. The 3x3 has a fixed center, whereas the 4x4 does not. So that means the center can occur, or any center can occur anywhere on the face, or on any face on the cube. But that does not mean that any center can be placed anywhere willy-nilly. Once the centers are set down, they have to be in specific spots. And that would be, at least for my cube, this is the standard sticker set for a 4x4 and a 3x3, and 2x2, sometimes they're a little bit different. But for 4x4 and 3x3, these are standard, these are the same. So I can help find the centers, where the centers need to be on this by using this. So what we will notice is that white is across from yellow. That I covered that a few minutes ago. Blue is across from green. I covered that a few minutes ago too. And red across from orange, same thing. Now, I couldn't exactly, and no, I'm not going to do that. Anyways, my white face is across from my yellow face, so we're going to start with those two faces. So I want to pair this this white piece here with another white piece that is in one of these four centers anywhere on the cube. And I see here's one, and here's one. And 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 4, obviously. And there are 4 centers. So, but we are actually going to try to start with 2 of them. And I wouldn't want something like this, because that doesn't really do anything. It's kind of counterproductive. So I'm going to reset it there. So what I want to do is I want to pair this, what's it called, center. I want to pair this white center with this white center. And I can't just bring this, this minor, I'm going to call this a minor belt. Each one of these will be a minor belt. This would be a major belt. I can't bring this inner minor belt down, or to make things easy, just bring both of them down, because then that knocked this one out of its place. What I can do, however, is I can take this white piece, rotate it up here to the top left, because there is a vacancy in this top left here, and the top left would make a bar with the top right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate the white piece from that was here up here, then take this half and pull it down, and there I have a bar. That is step 1. Boy, wasn't that complicated. No, it wasn't. Okay, now I want to try to create the other bar that should go down here. And I see my 2 white pieces are here. But again, I can't just rotate this up here by doing that because I knocked this one out of place. So what I want to do is I want to get this white piece into this spot. I want to get the white piece here from the upper right to the lower left. So all I have to do is rotate this into the lower left on this face, and then rotate this half up, and there I have a bar. And now I want to get this bar in alignment with this bar so that I create a full square of white. But I can't just turn this half down to get it there, because then I knocked this piece out of place and I interrupt this bar. So what I can do, however, is I can either take this down. Always remember this is our front face. I can take this down, rotate it over so that it slides underneath. If I rotated it on the top, it would just, it doesn't really help anything. I would never get anywhere until I rotated one of these two into the bottom layer. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring this white bar that was up here into the bottom layer and rotate. See, it was over here. Rotate, and now I have a full square of white.